enough, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. For thus saith Yahawah of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. I'm Brother Jonas, and the title of this video is, Should Israelites Wear Fringes and a Ribbon of Blue? Someone came to me telling me about an Israelite leader of an organization that was preaching that we didn't have to wear fringes and a ribbon of blue anymore because he said Paul did not wear them. We always try to find ways to weaken the word or trim our ways or drag others into hell with us when we don't want to do something that the Most High commands us to do in the Bible. I will first show you the scriptures that this leader of an organization is preaching. You will see he doesn't understand what he is reading. Then I will make my case for wearing fringes and a ribbon of blue with scriptures. Then you decide who is right and who has gone off the reservation of truth. I don't call people or groups out by name to tear them down publicly. Too much of that backbiting, non-productive mess is going on already. So you won't hear me use anyone's name or group name. We need to get some understanding first about the word fringes, so we can understand the scriptures when we read them concerning this topic. Hem and border is G2899, which means craspedon, which means a fringe on the border hem. This is important to know because you may not hear the word fringes in various scriptures. Instead, you will hear the words border or hem. Let's start with Numbers 15, verse 37. And Yahawah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. Fringes could be simply made by cutting the border of your garment into strips and sew a ribbon of blue on it. Verse 39, And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yahawah, and do them, and that you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring, that you may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your Elohim. You have to care about what the Most High says to do what the Most High says do. Now, this preacher uses Jeremiah 31, verse 31 through 34, which speaks of the new covenant. And this is what I mean by he doesn't understand what he is reading. Jeremiah 31, verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith Yahawah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. So we see a new covenant will be made with the nation of Israel. Key word here, will be made. Now we know that this is in Jeremiah's time, so Jeremiah is speaking of a future time. And we're going to get to that as we go down the scriptures. Verse 32, Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahawah. This new covenant will not be initiated the same way as the old covenant. The law will not be read, and we will not be sprinkled with blood and so on as it was done during Moses' time. Verse 33, But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahawah. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. After those days, meaning the last days we are in now, the Most High will put his law in our inward parts, or the very essence of our soul, and write it in our hearts or minds. We have not yet received the new covenant yet, and will not receive it until Christ returns. And also notice that it says that he will make a new covenant with the house of Israel. Not everybody in the world. That's very important to remember. Verse 34. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahawah. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahawah. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Do we still need to teach and preach? Yes. So as of today, he has not put his law in our inward parts, or the very essence of our soul, and has not written the law in our hearts or our minds. We're not there yet. Do we all know him from the least to the greatest? No. So we're not there yet. The new covenant will be established. Christ told us of this good news through his prophets. We are still under the old covenant, but with grace and mercy and no animal sacrifice, because this age or present world of Edom is not over yet, and the kingdoms of this world has not yet become the kingdoms of our Lord yet. We are at the end of the old covenant in a transition to the new covenant. We are being made ready to receive it. The command to wear fringes has not been done away with. Look at this. Jeremiah 31, verse 35. Thus saith Yahawah, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahawah of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahawah, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. The Most High is telling us that his ordinances will never pass away, and if they do, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before him forever. Verse 37. Thus saith Yahawah, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel from all that they have done, saith Yahawah. The Most High here is showing that Israel will never be cast off, and his law would never be cast off, because man cannot measure heaven above and cannot search out the foundations of the earth. Animal sacrifice was not perfect because we, as flesh and blood, made it not perfect with the sins we committed. So the Most High will give us a new covenant that we can keep when we are no longer flesh and blood. Then the old covenant will vanish away. Think about it. If we had the new covenant now, we would blow that thing up while being flesh and blood in this present world of wickedness. We know this because 2/3 of us are going to the lake of fire. Many of our people know some of the law and still willfully break the law. We see that Timothy or Paul, whichever wrote Hebrews, have taken the same scriptures from Jeremiah 31, verse 31 through 34, and refreshed them in their time for us today, long after the death and resurrection of Christ, and we see that the new covenant still had not started. So, the scriptures that Jeremiah spoke of in 31 through 34, were brought all the way forward after Christ's death and resurrection to the time of Paul and Timothy. And we see that in Hebrews, and yet the new covenant still had not been written in the essence of our souls or in our minds. Because the new covenant is a future time, which will begin when Yahawah returns. Let's look at Hebrews 8, verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, they're not here yet, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Again, with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. No mention of everybody else in the world. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. This is what Jeremiah prophesied and Timothy prophesied in his time, meaning it has not happened yet. That's clear to see. And the preacher or leader of that organization, which is in question, does not understand that the new covenant has not taken place yet. Let's continue. Hebrews 8, verse 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. We are still teaching and preaching in our time, because every man his neighbor and every man his brother still don't know the Lord. Why? Because the new covenant has not started. Verse 12. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith, a new covenant he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. So, when the new covenant begins and the word is written in us, there will be no need to be reminded of the law. We will know it. It will be like the air we breathe. It's there. Every word, not only in the Bible that we know today, but in all the books that are missing in the Bible. We will know the complete word from beginning to end, just as Yahawah knows it. To be reminded to keep the law wearing fringes has nothing to do with whether or not you will keep the law or break it. That's up to you. Just like wearing fringes is up to you. But the Most High commands it, and you have the ability to do it in this present time. These next scriptures the preacher used as a very bad example for no longer needing to wear fringes. He used Exodus 27, verse 20. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring the pure oil, olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always, in the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before Yahawah. It shall be a statute forever unto their generations on the behalf of the children of Israel. The preacher asked the question, where is Aaron and his sons now? They're not doing this throughout their generations, the preacher said. Now, this is an Israelite preacher being stupid and deceitful. We know Aaron and his sons are not doing it, or Aaron and his sons and their descendants are not doing it, because it was broken up. We were kicked out of our lands, so of course they can't do it. So this is just that preacher being stupid and using this as a weak excuse to get you to see that, oh, since Aaron and his sons are no longer doing what they're supposed to do, then you don't have to wear the fringes. Some things we have no control over, but that does not do away with or nullify what the Most High said to do. You have the power to put fringes on some of your clothes and wear them if your job allows. Remember, we are still in captivity in a foreign land and cannot fully do as we should or want to do. You have to use your own judgment. When you have your own free time and you're not at work, you can put on clothes that have fringes when you go out and about. I mean, this is real easy. Now, the preacher uses another very bad example in Exodus 29, verse 38 through 42. These scriptures relate to altar sacrifices, meat offerings, and drink offerings, which we no longer do because Christ was and is our sacrifice. Some things we no longer do are common sense when you understand our present situation as a nation and understand Christ's sacrifice. So this preacher continues with such scriptures, trying to justify no longer wearing fringes. I won't go through all of them because it's redundant. The preacher then goes to Acts 21 and says, this is after the new covenant. You see what I'm saying? He thinks Acts 21 is after the new covenant. The new covenant has not begun yet. We're almost 2,000 years after Acts 21, and the new covenant hasn't begun yet. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. Remember, we established that the new covenant had not started yet because the word is not written in our minds to the strength that Yahawah said it would be written. I can't remember what I read yesterday in the Bible, so I know it's not written in me yet. Acts 21, verse 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days madest an uproar, and leadest out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. The preacher's argument is that if Paul had on fringes, the chief captain would have recognized that he was an Israelite. That's not necessarily true. And it is possible that the clothes Paul had on might not have had fringes. We don't know what was going on with Paul as far as his personal clothing was. We do know that Paul went through hell and might have lost his original clothes. Northern Kingdom most likely was not wearing fringes because they had been Hellenized all those years. And a lot of their culture was stripped from them. The whole point, though, is that nowhere does it says not to wear fringes. The preacher man of that organization cannot show me or you where it says not to wear fringes. The Most High didn't say it, Paul didn't say it, and Christ didn't say it. Let's refresh what we know about fringes. Hem and border is G2899, which means crespidon, which means a fringe on the border hem. As I said before, this is important to know because you may not hear the word fringes in various scriptures, as you will see. Instead, you will hear the words border or hem. Now, let's see what we know about Christ. Matthew 9, verse 20. And he, behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years, came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. The woman with the issue of blood received healing when she touched the hem or fringes of Yahawah's garment. Matthew 14, verse 34. And when they were gone over, they came into the land of Gennesareth. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all that country round about, and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched were made perfectly whole. Again, we see that people wanted to touch the hem or fringes of Christ's garment. Remember, the Greek word for hem or border is crespidon, meaning the extremity or edge, the fringe of a garment. Israelites had fringes and a ribbon of blue on their garments to remind them of the law, whether they kept the law or not, and most did not, as we know. Yahawah would be a hypocrite if he didn't wear them, because it was him that told us in the wilderness to wear them. You should be able to see these scriptures are examples for us to repel the nonsense that people would teach and preach, especially in these last days. And sadly, from our own preachers that want to wear the chief clothes of Edom, you know, the crazy suits. Mark 6, verse 56 tells of a similar incident. Let's go there. Mark 6, verse 56. And whithersoever he entered, into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. Why is it always they want to touch the border of his garment? Why not want to touch the sleeve or the shoulder or any other part? It's the border that they want to touch. And it's the border where the fringes were. And wherever he went into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets and sought him out so they could just touch the border or crespidon, which is fringes of his garment, and the people that touched him were healed. Remember, the new covenant has not started yet. Look again. Baruch 2, verse 29. And if ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. Today we are remembering ourselves as we wake up. We begin to see and understand that we are the true Israelites. Verse 31, and shall know that I am the Lord their Elohim, for I will give them an heart and ears to hear. Some of us have mind and ears to understand what we learn in the Bible. Verse 32, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name. I praise Yahawah here in the land of my captivity and think upon his name always. Verse 33, and return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers, which sinned before the Lord. I repented and turned from my stiff neck and wicked deeds, and remembered how wicked our fathers were. If you don't know, you need to read the history more often. Verse 34, and I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they shall be lords of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them. I will make an everlasting covenant with them when he brings us back into the land to be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And I will no more drive my people of Israel out of the land that I have given them. When he brings us home to Israel, he will make an everlasting covenant with us. Are we there yet? No. The new covenant has not started. Wearing fringes is a simple and easy command to follow, especially in these days. Some can't wear them because of their jobs. That's understandable. We're still in captivity. You have to do what you have to do to live. But on your own time, you can wear them. There's no excuse not to. Only you and the Most High truly know where your heart is. You can fool yourself and others, but you can't fool Yahawah. He knows if you really want to wear fringes or not. He knows if it's in your heart, if it's your desire to obey him and wear fringes with the ribbon of blue. Maybe you are ashamed to wear them and want to hide among the walking dead. I love wearing my fringes because not only do it help me to remember the commandments I know, but it shows others who I am and what I know, which is the truth. I'm not only black and proud, but I'm an Israelite and proud. Peace be with you, Israel. Tick tock.